Welcome back to A Better World. This is your host, Mitchell J. Rabin, and we're very glad that you are with us again today. Today we are going to be interviewing Paul Lowe, who, as many of you will recall, was on the show about this time last year. And we're very glad that Paul has come back to join us again. And he's in New York doing some lectures and workshops. So I'd like to tell you all about that to start with. And when this is occurring is a lecture is occurring October 25th in the evening, and a workshop October 27th, 28th, and 29th. So after you experience Paul again here on this show, you may want to consider attending the lecture and workshop. And in order to do that, give a call to 212-677-0101. That's 677-0101, and you can get some further information about how to go about participating. All right? So thanks for joining us again. And Paul, I want to extend a warm welcome to you. Really glad to have you again. I just want to say one thing first, that I was pleased to you yesterday at the New Life Expo during your workshop with Grace, and I felt graced by being in it. I felt that you the two of you together set a tone to the room. There was an atmosphere of great love, a lot of feeling, a lot of warmth, a tremendous amount of sincerity. I don't think I agreed with everything you said, but so what? I enjoyed it, and maybe I'll bring up some of those things along our way today.
Let's start off with them.
Okay. You said nothing works. Categorically, nothing works. A sweeping generalization. Nothing works. And in general, being the iconoclast that I am, I agree with that. But there are exceptions, and I felt that those exceptions need to be honored. And it would be too much to go into great length about what those are. But I'm going to get specific about your saying that meditation doesn't work. And you described that your experience had been of meditating, if I recall, for about, correct me if it was 8 years, 24 hours a day, or something of that ilk. Certainly a strong, intensive time, that it didn't work. That certainly you were different before and after. But the question becomes then, what does it mean to work? Number one. And isn't whatever's happening for some reason anyway, just as our life moves along its path anyway? And perhaps that was what you needed at that time to incur or experience greater awakenings later. I mean, in other words, it was sort of like a judgment that I felt was not right on the mark.
Okay. Well, this is what I feel. I feel that most people don't want to be where and who they are. So what I see, what most people do in meditation and in their spiritual practices are to escape and not be here. So people meditate in order to gain something or to not be where they are. Now meditation, as I experience it, as I understand, is just being here as we are now. Now in that, something happens. But you see, even using the word meditation isn't correct then. We're just sitting here, eyes open, eyes closed, half open, half, being here. But it's being here in a way where you're not doing anything, you're not going anywhere, it's being in a silence. In actual fact, you're not doing anything, so it is a nothing. Most people do something. And all the people that wake up say, this thing happens when you're totally here. And now, accepting this moment. So if you're doing anything, you're going away. So So when I say nothing works, I mean anything you do will not work. Because the very doing comes from the part of you that needs to be disconnected from.
Okay. It's very different than what you said, and I agree with you.
Well, I'm saying that is what I said, and then we all have a different interpretation on what I said.
Mm-hmm.
And generally in situations like that, it's like waking people up.
Yeah.
Because what most people are trying to do is get something to get away from here, not to be here.
Oh, I hear you completely. It's we're raised in a sense to be acquisitional,
Right.
in
Absolutely.
one way or another.
Yeah.
To create a treasure chest, whether it's money or
Absolutely.
knowledge
Right.
or good feeling.
Yeah.
It's that.
Yeah. Yeah. And on that vein, what I say is, if you're putting your total energy into getting money or to being enlightened, as far as I'm concerned, it's the same thing. And I'm saying it's better to put it into money because it's more honest. You're just trying to gain something. It's just greed. Instead of saying, here I am, I accept who I am and what I am, I'm being as grateful as I know how to be, and I'm open for more.
Yeah.
Any denial of this moment, you're not going anywhere.
Right. I think you're completely right, and I've been relating to the wisdom of that since the lecture, since the workshop yesterday. I've just, and this is part of what I was suggesting actually, in the space that the two of you and all of us actually were creating in that room, I felt had a sense of empowerment to it. Certainly for me, I left feeling my mind very open, my heart quite vulnerable, and just kind of a softening effect, and an allowing is really what it was. So this is good. What else did I take issue with? I'm sure there were a few things. What would you like to say in the meantime?
Just going on about this particular issue, we have been taught to keep reaching outside ourselves, and something's going to do it for us. And if you just look around, what I was saying yesterday and what I keep saying is, nothing is working. So our politics don't work, our finances don't work, relationships and marriage doesn't work, and I'm saying therapy doesn't work, gurus don't work. Nothing outside of it, ourselves, in themselves work. So the way Jesus put it was, seek ye first the kingdom of God. The kingdom of God is within, then all else is added onto you. And until you've got that balance inside, nothing on the outside is fulfilling. When the balance, the awareness has been contacted on the inside, incidentally everything works. But even if it doesn't, it's working because you have this. And until you have this, nothing really works. No matter how rich you are, no
Absolutely
matter
true.
whether you can heal by touching, whether you can see through walls, it doesn't make any difference until you've got this balance.
Exactly.
And I do know many psychic people and people with great talents, and their personal lives in a mess.
God, it seems to be standard, as a matter of fact, based on my observation. You're reminding me of a story in a book on Tibetan Buddhism written by John Blofeld. He's talking about walking along a road, a country lane, with a Buddhist monk who was reading his mind. And the monk said out loud, after minutes and minutes of silence, he said, "Don't bother." And what John was thinking was, my God, if I keep on this meditative practice for long enough, I'll have all of these great psychic powers, and I'll have clairvoyance, and I'll have intuition, and the monk just said, "Don't bother, they're all sidetracks."
Right.
So what you're saying, rings true with me very much. In fact, I'm reminded of something historic in my own life, which is that when I was growing up, the war in Vietnam was going on, and being nonviolent type or having values in that direction. I was a protester against the war and being against what I saw going on. I saw many things not working from a systemic societal point of view. And I thought I should go into politics so I could change legislation. I was young. Grant me that. I was young, and I thought I could change things so that this kind of absurdity called war wouldn't be able to continue. And within a year and a half of my making political efforts to do things, to get my own student body together to protest the war and all of that, I realized even my friends were not doing anything for this effort. There was no sense of commitment to really taking action. And they were much busier making out at the locker rooms and having football games and everything else. And so this was a great moment of learning for me because I was so deeply disappointed.
And more than that, they were at war with themselves.
Well, you know what I did? You're absolutely right. What I did was I got out of that whole political thought process and I went into psychology because I said nothing happened because the problem is the mind of man. Right. The war isn't here. Right. And not until we get that clean, it's going to be, business as usual. So that was a breakthrough for me. And I ended up never touching politics, but going into the field of psychology, which I actually was doing as a political action. You could say that was one piece of it.
Right. So that's the key, is everything that's projected on the outside is starting from here. So while we're at war in here, this is what we're having outside. So we're having it in our relationships, in our families, in our politics, in our religions, and country to country is the division that's in here is just projected on the outside. And so until we love ourselves, until we accept ourselves, until we're in peace, this is what we're going to project on the outside.
We will have war on all levels. Really. Yeah. Now, you say that nothing works, including gurus. You spent a lot of time yourself with a particular Indian teacher, and as I understand, and please correct me if I'm wrong, that you were considered high in the hierarchy, and also you go around the world teaching, and people regard you as guru, whether you want that or not. How do you feel about that and the effect that you're having on others?
Well, I don't see myself as a guru or a teacher. I'm sharing something that's happened to me. And so there's no support in any way for anything that anybody wants to put on me. In fact, it's the opposite all the time. And you may have heard me yesterday, I said it doesn't matter who's talking to you right now, and it doesn't matter what they're saying. The only thing that matters to you right now, is what are you feeling? What's going on with you about what you're hearing? So the person that says it and what they say is immaterial. It's what goes on inside. And getting back to the other part where we started, everybody's trying to get somebody else to do it for them, and nobody can do it. So when I said meditation doesn't work, there are people that meditate 18 hours a day for 30 or 40 years, and they're a little quieter.
And they don't get quieter?
They get quieter.
Oh, they do get quieter, yeah.
But many of those people have come to my groups, and if I want, I can just say one thing to them and they're angry again. What they've done is meditate on top of. Yeah. And if you meditate long enough, for as many lives as you need, eventually it goes back down. It takes a long time.
It's a slow road.
Right. So as I see it, the guru trip doesn't work. And I've known many, many gurus, and I've got friends who investigated gurus. There's a friend here in New York who wants to make a series of television documentaries on people that are clear. And he hasn't found one. He found one, but that person upset him.
Maybe he has to get clearer. That's good. And not only that, but how would he know if he's actually identifying somebody who's clear?
Right. Until you're clear. But you do get a feeling about
Yes,
something.
you do.
And if his method is to live with them for 3 weeks.
Uh-huh.
And if you live with someone, you know whether they're living what they're talking about.
You see things.
Right.
Sure.
And hear things.
Right. Right. I really, one thing that was going on in me yesterday, in listening to you, in saying being here now is the most important piece of life. And everything is now. Everything, all worlds, all levels, all dimensions, simultaneously now. My mind went somewhere when I heard that. And that was to the larger picture, not just in that room, but to the planet. I just expanded outward a little bit and saw how deeply wounded Mother Earth is and what we have done to her as a result of this war that you're referring to that is raging inside us. And so I was just wondering, and I didn't feel it was the right time to ask you, but how do you feel about that, and what do you feel our role is in dealing with the extremeness of our current condition, with water being virtually undrinkable, soil yielding no nutrients, air not having the oxygen that it used to, and it continues.
The first thing that comes is something maybe we'll talk about later on. Do this no-eating process. Water won't affect you, air won't affect you, nothing affects you. Until then, it depends on where you come from about what's going on in the planet. So when we say save the planet, what are we saving? So animals are tearing each other to pieces. Insects are eating things. So the whole destruction is going on many levels. Normally it stays in balance. But do we want to support that? Do we want to support animals that hunt each other, that terrify each other? Do we want to keep the planet as it is? So what happens is when we say save the planet or what's going on is we have a position, and the position is about survival. Maybe the planet wants to upgrade. Maybe it wants to lose the solidity of the material and start to move to a different vibration. Maybe this destructive process is actually part of a reconstruction on another level. So if we hold in any way, that's to do with survival, and that's to do with the limitation of our mind. If we don't know, and we look at everything again and say, well, what's trying to happen here? What's going on? Often we get a different perspective. And as soon as you say, I know, you stopped it. When you say, I don't know, then you're open to another level and another level. So this is what Grace was saying to me to start with, and I said, well, I don't know whether I'm going to talk about that. Something's happening on planet Earth, and something that has never happened on planet Earth before, beyond the Buddhas. What's happening is there's a shift in vibration. What's happening about the shift in vibration is, for many people, what's going to happen is we're actually going to change our physical vibration so we're not so physical. And the difference between the physical and the non-physical are going to get a lot closer. And so we're looking at a whole shift of reality. Now all these predictions we've got about this is going to happen and that's going to happen and we're going to have famine and war and this, we look at that negatively, but maybe it's not. Maybe this is the beginning of the change. Maybe this is the breakdown of the material to allow this new dimension. But what I keep saying is it doesn't matter, because that's then and this is now.
I enjoy your words. A thought though. A lot of the destruction that has taken place to date is, in my words, unconscious, based on unconsciousness. It's based on people not being in touch with themselves, not being present. It's based on fear, and and survival thinking, and greed, and that's the basic poisons that the Buddhists talk about, that has brought the world to its current chaos. So let's just to use imagination for a moment, if life had been different, if people had been listening to the words of Lao Tzu and of the Buddha and to Jesus, and they aligned themselves with God and with their higher selves and with life and with love, that it could well have been that when people built factories, they built them so that Mother Earth wasn't being polluted every single time. There would have been this idea of recycling, of conservation, of caring for all beings all the time. And Mother Earth would have been regarded as a being as well. So this destruction, I understand what you're saying. I think it's fabulous, actually. And I'm really very interested in hearing more about that. But I need to bring this part up. I want to, for reflection, because this is a result of massive unconsciousness and
and you presume that is bad. So to quote Jesus, he says,
That's
when
true.
you see the in as the out, and the out as the in, the up as the down, and the down as the up, when you see a man as a woman and a woman as a man, when thine eye be single, then will thy body be full of light. When thine eye be single. So you quoted the Buddhists as saying, this is bad. There's no such thing as bad.
Well, I didn't say bad, but I said, they referred to it as the three poisons. Ignorance, greed,
No such thing as bad.
hatred.
No such thing. Now,
Okay.
there are these behaviors, and depending on how we are with it, they're pleasant and unpleasant. But if we hadn't have had all this experience, we wouldn't have been this wise. So they were very beautiful people, it seems, in that time. But not as wise as we are, not as experienced as we are. They hadn't experienced the dichotomy as we have. And if you're one, you don't see the other side. As you experience what you can call your evil or your darkness, then you start to see the light. So without the darkness, there's no awareness of light. Without light, there's no awareness of darkness. So we've dichotomized things as an experiment. And I'm saying the experiment is over. It's time to come back. And we needed to have this. This is what we developed this whole duality for. Now, I'm suggesting it's time to let that go again and start to come back together in love and caring, to be for each other. But I'm not saying what has happened and is happening is bad. In fact, we've gone so unconscious, we're not going to wake up until it gets worse.
Oh, yeah.
As it gets worse, so more people are likely to start to wake up. So I don't see anything as bad.
You're lad. That's wonderful. It's wonderful. It's an enlightened point of view. It's not one I think I have fully. I can follow you and I can be there with it, but it's. I'm thrown back to another point of view that has. I guess it may have some judgment in it. It may have some judgment about the way people treat each other and how I think it ought to be. And I'm seeing that as you speak. And at the same time, there is great appreciation inside me for the idea that what is really happening is everything has happened absolutely perfectly as it should have. Bar nothing. Everything is exactly on course. And we're riding along as Mother Earth, and I would like you to actually speak a little bit more about this, if you would, shifting vibration, and we've had others on the show speak about Mother Earth lifting, in a sense, into her light body. And there will be some of us who want to go on that ride, and others who may not.
So let's take a look at the first
Yeah.
thing you said. This is possible judgment, and what I felt was, as you said that, you were judging your judgment. And you could just say, oh, there's a judgment. But then you came down on yourself, so you doubled the judgment. On a more sort of earthly note, let's take a look at this. This is the way I see it. When I see somebody being unkind to someone else, attacking someone else, somewhere I feel responsible. This person is my responsibility. It's everybody's responsibility. This person that is attacking because of the way they've been brought up, because of the way they've been treated as a child, because there wasn't love in their life. And unless I am devoted in some way to helping that to shift, I'm responsible for that. This is my brother, this is my sister, this person is in pain, and somewhere we've all helped to create that. And we're not taking care of it.
Right.
So instead of seeing this as wrong, or this is a victim, how come that person was there in the first place? How come this person is in that place, in that way? So what I take a look at is taking responsibility, responding to this situation.
So you will act, or you might act.
I don't know what I'll do till I'm in that situation.
Right, but it is possible that you would take some action on some level.
I would allow action to take me.
Okay.
Not to be there. Just to let whatever response feels appropriate. I don't need to decide that. Because if I decide it, that's my mind, that's my neurosis, this is good, this is bad. My mind doesn't know. So this person may be killing this person, and I say that's bad, but I might not have known that the person they're about to kill is planning to kill 10 people. I don't know.
Right.
And you said just now something that triggered that Socrates says, I don't know. Lao Tzu says, everyone is so certain and I walk as though upon thin ice. So the people that are supposed to know say, they don't know. And I find allowing myself to live in that not knowingness, I'm more present for what might be there. As soon as I know, I've made a Polaroid, but I don't know. It's only one-dimensional.
Well, it's a provisional knowing. It's tentative. And I don't want to declare all knowing at a given moment as not having a place in life. If I don't remember that there's a lot that I also don't know, then I'm in trouble. But there's certain things...
What trouble?
Well, trouble if I'm... Well, that being locked in. If I don't remember that there's much that I don't know, then I would be locked into knowing. That's what I mean. And then there's nothing new and there's nothing else that can come in.
Right. Yeah.
But I don't want to criticize having some sense of knowing, because we all have that. And you were demonstrating that yesterday when people, and right here, when people were speaking yesterday, you stopped, you looked inside yourself, or somewhere, and you spoke about what you felt. I mean, this is my interpretation of what I experienced, of what you felt or what you sensed was going on for that person.
And I don't know that. See, I don't know. You're right, I stop, I listen, I tune in, and then I let whatever's there come out. But I don't know that.
You don't know it for sure. You sense, you feel, you have a sense. Just like you feel a connection with another person when two people are fighting. You have a connection.
Yeah.
And you know you have a connection.
Take a look at this possibility. If you're ready to give up any knowing, you've given up yourself. You have died and not been reborn. And that's what the description from the East says, what awakening is. You die to the self. The drop falls into the ocean. You disappear.
Right.
And most people are terrified of that. So a little bit of knowing keeps you there. Let the knowing go. Take no thought of the morrow. Let the morrow take thought of itself.
Mm-hmm.
Live in not knowing, and there's no self. There just is isness. So we like to know a little bit. And what I found is when I let everything go,
Yes.
if I need to know something, I can find out. I don't need to keep it there as a memory bank.
Mm-hmm.
It usually, if I want to know my address, I wouldn't say that because I often forget. If there's something that I really need to know, it appears for me.
Mm-hmm. Okay, of that kind of so-called left-brained
Right.
kind of knowledge.
And I let everything else
Mm-hmm.
go because it's
Mm-hmm.
in the way.
But I'm not even talking about that kind of knowing. I'm really talking about a kind of a gut, intuitive knowing.
Right.
It's more of a, I don't know, I think maybe a sensing.
Yeah.
See, even maybe your point of view of everything happens as it needs to happen, and maybe we're being positioned really very beautifully for a new opening that's now, where our physical, our experience of ourselves as physical beings is shifting into a lighter sense of ourselves, a more etheric, and there'll be more of a kind of an interplay or a dance between the two, less of a sense of solidity. I would like to hear you speak a bit more about what you sense about that shift taking place.
Well, all the predictors have said this is the time for a major shift, and I think we're in it. It's happening.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't think it matters. Forget it. It's a diversion. This is it. This is your life right now. And if the spaceship comes and collects you, you'll be the same neurotic person on the spaceship as you are sitting listening to this. So take a look at yourself now and see what you're ready to let go of. See what addictions you will disconnect from. Those things you fill in your life to make it work. Let them go and start to be here more present. So I don't talk about these things that I see in my meditation and may be coming, because that's one of the diseases of the New Age. It won't be here. It keeps talking about it, but it won't be here. It's saying this is coming and that's going to happen, and look at my crystals and look at that. And in the meantime, they're angry, they're jealous, they're against each other, they get angry, they're upset. What's that? Where are we going? If that's our basis, where can we go?
Right. Well, yesterday you said we were all wonderful people. And I love to believe that. Maybe it's a belief. Maybe it's a belief for you too. The world doesn't show us wonderfulness.
No, it shows us behavior, which is very different from who we are.
Yes.
So
agreed.
We don't behave very beautifully.
Right. Okay. All right. I'm right with you. On that note, I'm going to import something from yesterday, again, if you don't mind. Something came up with Michael Jazz and his booth. I found this very interesting because what you said to him was to kind of just be with who he was, experiencing what he was experiencing. Mm-hmm. I consider it very legitimate, very valid. What is the role, though, and this is what I thought when I was listening, what is the role, Paul, of agreements between people from your point of view, and emotional reactions to those agreements? Do you know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Asking?
When you make an agreement, you do it in this time, with this state of your neurosis, based on certain things, and very strongly on expectation that everything will be the way you want it to be, so you can stay comfortable. Now you can do that, but the world doesn't do that. The world has its own way of living. You take a Polaroid of that moment and you say, look, this is that moment. The world has moved on. Everything's moved on. So you can make an agreement with somebody that you're going to do a certain business, and then you find out that he's a confidence trickster. You won't carry on with your agreement because suddenly you found nothing is like you thought it was. Well, nothing is like you think it is.
Mm-hmm.
Ever. It keeps changing and moving and shifting. Now if you're ready to go with that, that is the flow, that is the Tao, that is the hidden harmony. But if you want it to be the way your neurosis feels comfortable, you're going to be in pain most of the time.
Okay, now let's say it's not with a trickster, but two people in good faith make an agreement, such as him and...
Right, and he breaks his leg.
Okay.
Right. Or his wife runs off, or he loses his money, or he finds he's got cancer. You see, things keep shifting and shifting.
True.
And shifting.
Absolutely. There are certain circumstances which one would very humanly say, oh, okay, and they would be pardoned from that part of the agreement. But in an event like I understood was going on yesterday, they had a clear agreement, and she just completely, without a broken leg or anything else, went completely against the stated terms of the agreement.
Yeah, she has a neurosis.
True.
Do you know
now,
anybody that doesn't?
Therefore, no, I don't. Agreed.
So
is
nobody,
that reason?
Nobody is reliable.
Right.
Nobody.
But what do we do with that? I'm going to the question underneath. Like,
accept it.
Accept
You
it.
see, when you make an agreement with somebody, you make an agreement with who you want them to be. That's the way a confidence trickster works. Not who they are. So when you see somebody that you're attracted to, you immediately see them the way you want to see them, not the way they are. And then if they're not the way you want them to be, you get pissed off.
Right.
Not just disappointed, pissed off. Right. We keep projecting instead of saying, now this is the way it looks, this is the way I would like it to be. I don't know. I'll live with the moment as it comes along. So this person turns out that they take your money or they don't follow the agreement. What you feel is yours. Nothing to do with them.
Okay.
So I once had somebody take from me in an investment $232,000 and nothing happened, except I wish I'd have kept the money, I wish I hadn't, but no againstness. Other people go to court, other people get angry, so the difference between what happened is the difference between me and them, not the person that took the money, not them. What do we do with it?
This is, yes, you're speaking right to my question.
A preference is natural.
Yes.
Choice is disaster.
Okay. How would you understand a preference for recourse in that situation? Be it legal, personal confrontation, what have you?
Each situation, go to the heart, go to the feelings, go to your higher self and say what's appropriate. And sometimes it might be to go to court, sometimes, but I would never do that.
But I hear you would never do that.
No.
Aren't you setting things up?
Just wasting all your life.
Wasting?
Going to court, going to lawyers, is that the vibration you want?
No, I don't.
So don't go there.
So we'll stand in judgment of it? Shall we stand in judgment of it?
No, let's just say it's not appropriate.
We'll prefer not to.
Some people prefer to do that, you don't prefer to do that.
It's a very tricky area, and I understand what you're saying. What I hear you saying, if I can give it back to you, and you can correct me if it's not online, is that if we can do things freely, and we can follow our preferences, simply, and whatever reactions we have to what occurs in the world, to what you referred to yesterday as the facts, things happening, we have a reaction. And if we stay with that reaction, that is, if I could say, on an internal level.